When people hear the phrase generational wealth, they immediately think it's about being ultra wealthy or owning dozens of properties. But in Charlotte, generational wealth often starts with just one house. Today, I want to talk about how families quietly build long-term wealth here through real estate. Not by flipping nonstop, not by gambling, but by thinking differently about ownership. If you're buying in Charlotte, this is a conversation we should have before you ever make an offer. Equity mindset. Most buyers shop emotionally. They think about the finishes, the paint touches, and how the house feels on day one. But wealth is built by thinking like an owner, not just a buyer. Equity is simply the difference between what you owe and what your home is worth. And in growing cities like Charlotte, equity builds over the time when you buy in the right location and hold strategically. Charlotte has seen steady long-term growth in areas close to job centers, strong school zones, and established neighborhoods. Places like South Park, parts of Myers Park, Ballantyne, Huntersville, near Lake Norman, these areas consistently attract buyers, which supports value over time. An equity mindset means asking, will someone want this house as much as I do 5 years from now? Holding versus flipping. A lot of people think wealth in real estate comes from flipping houses. And while flipping houses can work, that's not how most families in Charlotte build their generational wealth. They hold, they buy in an area with strong demand, and they live there 5 to 10 years. Maybe they move and turn it into a rental, or they sell and roll that equity into a larger property. Over time, appreciation combined with paying down your mortgage creates leverage that you can reuse. Charlotte's growth over the past decade has rewarded people who held property in areas near expansion corridors and strong employment centers. Flipping is short-term, holding is compounding. Buying right, building wealth doesn't start when you sell it. It starts when you buy. Buying right means prioritizing location over finishes. It means understanding school zone impact, commute patterns, and neighborhood trajectory. For example, a slightly smaller home in South Park with walkability to retail and corporate offices may outperform a larger home further out with longer commutes. A home near the light rail in South End or NODA may benefit from continued infrastructure investments. Buying right also does not mean overextending just to get every upgrade. Sometimes 80% of the house in a stronger location is smarter than 100% of the house in a weaker one. These are not emotional decisions, these are strategic ones. Legacy. Now let's talk about the part that people don't say out loud. Generational wealth is not just about numbers, it's about options. It's about having equity you can borrow against to start a business. It's about having a paid off home in retirement. It's about passing down property that gives your children a head start. In Charlotte, I've seen families who bought 15 to 20 years ago in areas that felt expensive at that time, but today that equity has changed their financial trajectory. Not because they chased trends, but because they held steady in strong locations. Legacy can look like keeping a property in Myers Park that belongs to a family long term. It also looks like turning your first home in Huntersville into a rental that produces income later. It can look like simply selling after 10 years and using that equity to purchase a home without stretching financially. The common thread is ownership with intention. I recently worked with buyers who relocated here, and they could have stretched for the biggest house in the best possible area in the furthest suburb. Instead, we chose a slightly smaller home closer to their job in South Charlotte with a strong school perception and consistent resale demand. It wasn't flashy, but it was strategic. 5 to 10 years from now, they'll have options, and that's what wealth really is. Building generational wealth through real estate in Charlotte does not require being a developer or owning 10 properties. It requires thinking long-term in a city that is still growing. It requires buying right, holding with patience, and understanding how location and demand shape value over time. If you're thinking about coming to Charlotte and you want to think strategically about wealth and not just a weekend house hunt, comment below, let me know your timeline, let me know your budget, and I'll provide a strategy to help you start building wealth with your new home.